All right, hey guys. So today I'm going through actually what we're doing and how we are planning our growth in the company. And I did this thanks to your feedback on you wanted to watch this type of content. And instead, not only do we discuss how you can work better with your business and cash flow, but we're also going through our journey in terms of growth. No better way I think, to show that our methods work other than show you that it's working for us. And I hope you enjoy the ride. So let's start. So before we start, I'll give you my backstory so you know actually where I am, what my situation is. Maybe you guys can relate to it. At least you'll understand our thinking in terms of how we want to run a business, how we made all the assumptions that we did, and why we're doing what we're doing in terms of actually growing the business, going from 0 to 1 at this stage. But come and join the ride. So let me explain a little bit about myself. My name is Ivo Pertz. You might maybe already know that. I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've been basically looking at entrepreneurship since I was 18 years old. My older brother was always an entrepreneur, a business owner, a few times successful, a few times not. So I looked at that journey and the thing that I saw that pulled me towards that is freedom of your own finances, but also freedom of your own time. If you want to work a lot, you can work a lot. If you want to take a few days out, you can take a few days out. That's not a problem. So long story short, I had somebody to look up to, somebody show me the ropes and these kind of things. And then I went to my own business. I made my own business. Then the '08 crisis happened and I moved to London. And in London, I went through, in '08, basically, we lost the business that we had. So that was the first time I lost everything and as an entrepreneur. And then I moved to London where, I went back to the basics. And actually my first job was knocking on doors and selling insulation for the house. And very quickly, within 9 months, I found investors and we started another business, which was an online real estate marketplace in Ukraine. And then I moved basically to Ukraine in 2012. We, went through all kinds of cycles in the country. Obviously, there were some troubles in 2014-15, but that was a hiccup compared to what happened later. Then obviously there was COVID. COVID was nothing the same. Ukraine is not the same type of country that you have in other European countries or the US, where you had government sponsoring your business or helping you out or giving you tax relief and these kind of things. In Ukraine, none of that happened. And basically you had to make your own business work from the get-go when everything was shut down. So we went through ups and downs and cycles in that business. And we went from 3 employees to begin with up to 40 employees at the peak. And then once COVID hit, we kind of went back to around 12, 13 people. And we managed to, look at the cash flow actually, which really helped us map out in front of us where we're going to actually have cash coming in. And that really helped us pass COVID in a good way. And then we started seeing growth again. And by that point, I had invested everything that I had into the business, all the savings and everything, and I was feeling very, very happy. We'd also come to an agreement with one of the largest newspapers in the country that we're going to power their real estate side of the business. And basically, I went to sleep over the weekend, like 5 days later, basically the war started. So me being not Ukrainian, I could leave. We packed my bags, packed my family, we left the country. Long story short, after that, obviously I was trashed. I didn't really know what I could do for my future. I was even ready to become, a taxi driver, do whatever it takes. And some people might know the pyramid of needs, or I forget what it's called, but when your basic things are swept away, the only thing you can think of is I need to have a roof over my head, put some food in my kids' mouths and in my family. And basically that was, people say rock bottom, things like that. Not rock bottom, but it was definitely it was quite traumatic for our family, let's put it this way. And then we moved to Belgium because I found some work. And basically for the past 3 years, this part you might know, I've been working with different types of companies where I've been coming in, helping them find their bottlenecks and start growing again, or implement actually everyday type of tools for the company to actually have more visibility, be more aligned, and then start growing again. Or in some cases, it was just implementing the tools that helped grow the business. So for example, e-commerce platform for a manufacturer that started working direct to consumer, and we set that up. I set that up, I helped set that up, and we managed to grow the business. But profit for the year was plus 15%. For a company that was doing 5 million in profit for the year, so that was a significant chunk. And yeah, so then we got into a situation where basically one of the companies that I was working for got sold. I got moved into a corporate kind of gig for 6 months. That didn't really work out for me, but I was like, okay, they're paying me a decent amount. I had a surgery on my knee at the same time, so I could spend some time with the family, spend some time on rehab and these kind of things. And then basically I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready to jump in, but I haven't saved enough money for me to jump into something else. So I was trying to do two things at the same time. So I had a friend of mine approach me and say, hey, he's a technical person. So he's built an MVP basically, which was the basis of Smoothen, which he built a system that basically automatically categorizes all incomings and outgoings based on bank statements. And we could also connect to banks to get those bank statements automatically. And basically I was like, okay, great, we can start working on that, promote it little by little by little, bootstrap it in the beginning, because I know it's super hard. You always have this chicken and egg situation, and having already gone through fundraising rounds before with my business in Ukraine, I know that it's, if you fundraise from the get-go, you're going to have to fundraise all the time, and that takes a significant chunk out of your time, and I would prefer to grow the business. So I was like, let's bootstrap it to begin with. Once it's working, once the numbers are working, then it's first of all, it's much easier to get money. Second of all, you've already proved that it works, so you only need money to accelerate things. You don't need money to actually experiment. And not everybody loves to, most people don't want to invest in you if you need to experiment. Trust me on that, okay? And so basically, I was looking at, growing the business a little by little by little, and then once we're ready, I can jump ship. But then basically life happens, and middle of last year, the corporation where I was working at had some turbulences, and they changed the CEO, they changed the structure, changed the management team, and basically because of that, I decided to leave the company at the same time because it was just way too chaotic. They didn't know what they're doing and these kind of things. And I moved on to helping a friend of mine fundraise because he doesn't know how to do that. And I came in there, and basically I was working at the same time. I was working on the consultancy, so to get more customers for myself, but with very few hours to work during the week. And then I found so I found my friend who needed help with fundraising. I had a commission based on the fundraise, and unfortunately the numbers that he gave me in the beginning weren't exactly true. So from the outset, it looked like he had a very high probability of closing the investment round. And then once we got actually into the numbers, I understood that this is a 50-50 chance. And then once time flew by, I actually knew the numbers are getting a little bit worse. So, the probability of them getting a fundraising, it was we put it to 10%. In the end, he did find a strategic partner, but this was a partner that he worked with before, so I didn't get my commission. And I'm in a situation right now where I have one customer, and I have Smoothen as the software company that we want to promote. And basically, I need to go out and hunt for money. So this is basically our journey and how we're thinking about things. So basically, it came to the point in December of last year that's December 2025, that I need to find new customers. and I want to structure it in a different way, because before it was basically I was looking for some positions and basically charging per hour or per day and how many hours and stuff like that. I was working that's how I would monetize those customers, which is not scalable because I only have so much time available, right? But that pushed me towards thinking of like, okay, how can I systemize the things that I know and that I've done for the past 3 years, and how can I make a business out of it, and what is the business that I can make out of it, and how quickly can we get customers? So now we can get into kind of the logic behind how I decided on what the approach should be. So let's dig into something that I think will make sense for you. So we have, if you haven't seen this before, I highly suggest looking at the short or at the full video for Hormozi in terms of like, what is your business type? Because depending on the business type, you have different levels of growth. And Hormozi goes over 4, which is services, info, software, and e-commerce. E-commerce is like steps and stuff like that. But that part I'm taking away completely because it's got nothing to do with me. I don't want to do anything with hardware. I don't want to go into e-commerce. So what's left is software, which we already have with Smoothen, but there you have a very long, slow growth rate until you get product market fit, and then it hits and it really, really grows, right? So the problem you have here is that you're not going to get money until you get product market fit. So obviously this is not going to generate money for me right now, okay? Then I was like, okay, what are the other 2 things that we can do? Well, services, which is what I've basically been doing, is just I haven't been monetizing it as my own company providing a service, but it was me providing my time, and that was the service. So the idea is kind of like, okay, how can we make the service more scalable, okay? And then I was like, okay, the other thing that we're doing, and partially I'm doing this already with you guys on YouTube, which is I can run an info business, which is like workshops, training, coaching, these kind of things, or yeah, even courses or something like that. Although I'm thinking that the courses would stay the free version for YouTube at this point in time. And then if you want like to actually work through these principles, then you can book a workshop or a one-on-one meeting with me, and we can go through this with for your company specifically. And for info businesses, there's it peaks very quickly. So I was like, okay, this might work to generate cash in the first quarter and just to like keep me floating above water. Then for anybody actually that comes for the info purposes, there's a nice trickle down towards either the service or the software. So depending on if they came for information about how to implement stuff, which is the service side of the business, then which is kind of, this is what it is, right? This is an example of that type of info stuff. And or if you came for cash flow information, then it's a very nice way for me to say, hey, look, this is the way that you use the software, and then we can work on actually getting more information from live type of customers that would actually pay for the tool in terms of like what's missing in the tool, what do we need to develop more, and that will, spearhead the product development, and with that we should reach product market fit much quicker. So that's the theory, right? So we have all 3 types of businesses, they're all interconnected, and they're all passing on customers from one to the other. So if you came in from a service, maybe you want to have some info business, or you have a software that can do some stuff. If you came in from the software, hey, maybe you need to learn a little bit more, or maybe you have a business that needs some services, right? So the company that I have right now that I've been using to bill my customers up until now is called Digital Pathfinder. So DPF for short. It's a name that relates to me very much because it's how I look at, when I come into a service company, it's like I'm finding the right way for you guys. It's not just, a single size fits all kind of situation. It's more of like, what is the bottleneck for you specifically? Let's solve that, get you to a new stage of growth, and then we leave, okay? And then we have Smoothen, the Smoothen app, So basically, the idea was, okay, what are the things that we can do in terms of service, info, and software for Smoothin and for Digital Pathfinder. So Smoothin, you can say it's for earlier type stage companies, which are still learning how to look at cash flow, or things like that, or just smaller and medium-sized businesses that have run into these kind of issues. It might be even an offline type of business, but they want more information and more knowledge in terms of how they can better look at their finances without getting a financial degree or a fractional CFO into their business. And then we have Digital Pathfinder, which is for like later stage. So it's either scale ups or it's growth stage companies that need implementation of things because they've hit a new bottleneck at a different level. And there we go in, implement things so that they can break those bottlenecks. A lot of the time it's a problem actually of being aligned and everybody in the company being aligned. And so communication is very important within a company. And so those are for like higher value companies and customers where we can implement things and get them to have a new growth rate. So obviously with Digital Pathfinder, some of the tools that we're implementing are AI tools. So we're thinking of doing things that way. Some ideas that we had for Digital Pathfinder was basically like, we can have info type of things for how to actually implement these tools and what that's going to do for a business. And for Smoothin, we wanted to keep it closely related to the tool, to cash flow, and to how you work with planning your finances. And also, we want to launch solutions in terms of like coaching or workshops and these kind of things for people that are much earlier in their stage or younger, that don't have the experience of actually looking at cash flow and understanding how money actually flows. So that's the basic idea. Now we move on from this. So that was the idea. And we move on to what are the tasks. So the ideas, those came in December. And then I came up with a 2-week plan. Basically, we're keeping a very short leash, a sprint basically, which is 2 weeks, and we're looking only one sprint ahead. And I listed out all the tasks, what I needed to do for my prep work in week 1. And then I listed out all the stuff that I want to do in week 2, which is basically looking at getting feedback from the market in terms of like what the approach is, what the pitch is, how do people react, do they sign up for phone calls and these kind of things. So the other thing that you will notice here is there's something called Cloud Canopy and OSN. So these two are actually existing partners and existing customers. So OSN is an existing customer, so I have some tasks to do for them there. Cloud Canopy is basically a partner that I've partnered up with that I think I can boost some sales for them. They're also a potential customer for Smoothin for us. And basically what they do, they're a cloud infrastructure brokerage that deals with larger type customers that need, spend like from 5 million a year on cloud infrastructure. And they basically renegotiate their deals for these companies with the providers. And usually they get like a 20% discount on the existing pricing. And they take 20% of whatever they say for the company. And it's a no cure, no pay type of approach. So for this, I'm thinking I have a short list of companies that I can reach out to directly because I know these people and I can make some money very, very quickly that way. And because everything that we're doing on Digital Pathfinder and on Smoothin, these are assumptions. So there are a lot of unknowns. We haven't run through the whole process. We don't know how everything is going to work. The steps that we have in mind, are they the correct ones? And these kind of things, right? So basically, if we go over week 1, what is it that we did? The main thing is here is, what's the Smoothin customer journey? We need to then prep for the launch, the pitch, the offer, landing pages, lists, emails, ICPs, ideal customer profiles, for those of you who don't know it, qualifying questions for intro call, workshop actual setup, map out and cross-reference the workshop setup, which means looking at what we can provide that other people are not providing on the market and these kind of things. What's the market differentiator? And then from that, we also need to look into the Smoothin product strategy in terms of like what are the things that you can do with Smoothin right now that we teach in the workshop that you can do, right? Then, of course, launch. Hopefully start cold calling, make some social media posts, and create our expenses calendar. That's the expenses forecast. Then, and then also in week 1 was preparing everything for these 2 customers. Week 2 for Smoothin was basically to start getting some testimonials for people that have worked before. Start cold calling. Cold calling. That's the main thing for us to do. Product launch. Then we have a blog and like written content strategy, because the content that we're providing right now is also going to be in written format. Then some keyword analysis to see like what type of content should we put out there on YouTube, what type of content should we put out there in text, and these kind of things. And then just tweak accordingly. That's it, right? So prep, go out there, get feedback, tweak accordingly, okay? From Canopy, get replies. If we can get some money, great. If we can't, forget it. We tried it. Focus on the thing that will generate the money for you. And then if you look at my kind of daily schedule, so you'll see kind of blocks in here that I've blocked. So from 9 till 10:30, I have OSN, which is a customer that I spoke to you about. Unfortunately, I cannot start earlier because I have 3 small children. My oldest is going to be 5 in March. So, we have sleepless nights, we have very early mornings, all of this kind of stuff. My morning is fully packed with all the stuff that I need to do for the kids. But what I can do is I can work in the evenings, and basically I'm more of like a nighttime, I'm more of a night type of person. And for me to work until midnight or until like 11 o'clock, it's perfectly fine. So I set aside an hour and a half every day for this customer, which is actually a digital Pathfinder customer that's working on a no cure, no pay type of approach. We've already come up with all the growth plan and everything. So that's actually proof of concept done and dusted. So for digital Pathfinder, we found our first customer. Then we have from 10:30 till 12, we have the follow-up for Canopy. That's on week 1 and on week 2. After week 2, this part might go back to basically Smoothin. Then from 12 until 2, I block my time for the gym, having lunch, doing some videos, these kind of things. And then once I come back from that, I have time from 2 till 5 for Smoothin and for Digital Pathfinder. So basically this is going to be cold outreach on week 2. And then once I put the kids to bed and I can start working again, so from 8 till 11 or midnight ish, I'm working on Smoothin / Digital Pathfinder. So that's that in terms of like what the actual strategy was for week 1 and week 2. Now let's move into what did we actually do on week 1. So, as you guys know, I like to plan things in calendars, and basically I planned out 2 weeks here. So we have for week 1, week 2, we have days of the week, and then we have specific tasks and plans for every single day. And then what I left also, on top of that is some space for notes, basically, to recalibrate and to kind of make my brain feel sane and not to beat myself down because I haven't done all the tasks that I set out myself to do. Especially in week 1, because week 1 is a lot of creative work, and creative work is notoriously difficult to forecast in terms of how much time it's going to take to do that. And for that, I think it makes a lot of sense for me to look at, what is the actual things that I managed to do. Maybe there's some knowledge or some things that I need to learn to speed things up and these kind of things. So it's basically a way for me to, reflect on the day and take some new knowledge in terms of what I can do for the next day. So once we get into the actual rhythm and things are working and we don't need to experiment that much more, it's much smoother. That's it. So if we go through kind of the plan, actually, I take off things that I've done here, but actually, as you can see, quite a few of the tasks haven't been finished. So what actually happened in terms of what I wanted to do, on Monday I wanted to basically almost complete everything so that we're like ready from a content perspective, from a landing page perspective, from a business perspective in terms of what we're actually doing. Then Tuesday was meant to plan for actually getting the lists, getting the pitches, getting the flow in place, getting the sequences in place, and these kind of things. And then from Wednesday onwards, it was supposed to be, cold calling plus some small things still left here. But like I basically wanted to reserve like already blocks where I can reach out to people from Wednesday onwards. Now, what ended happening was that week 1 was all purely prep. Okay. The reason for that was that the landing pages that I was creating those landing pages using Figma AI, which I highly recommend, by the way, because you don't need anybody. I don't need a designer. I don't need a front-end developer. I don't even need my co-founder, who's a technical director, to do these things and implement these things for me. So, but it did take 2 days longer to learn how to really use that tool and work with that tool until it started really working. And now I think we have very good landing pages with a lot of content, a lot of research that was done also with that. And the problems that we're highlighting for Digital Pathfinder are the ones that I know because I've worked through that. The ones that I'm highlighting on Smoothen are the ones that we found doing our market research. So basically, the first 3 days was setting up everything so that we actually have the content. So Monday took 3 days instead of 1 day. And then Thursday and Friday, we did a bunch of other stuff. So we prepared the pitches, we prepared the lists, and I also looked at the financials because the hardest part for me was to put a price point on Digital Pathfinder. So the idea that I came up with was actually to also go with a no cure, no pay type of scenario, because we have 2 streams for Digital Pathfinder. Either we save you money by implementing some things for existing tasks. So that's very simple. We just take 20% of whatever we save you. So if we save you 100 grand, you're going to pay us 20,000 for that, right? Very easy. Maybe 25%. I haven't decided yet. Depends on the customer and my mood, I guess. Then we, the harder part is like if we need to implement things for growth, because especially if a company is already growing, you need to factor in already an existing growth rate and you need to deliver on top of that. These kind of things. I mean, that is a little bit less unclear, but I already have a customer that I've agreed terms to that way, and we locked in a base level, and anything that goes over a base level, that basically gets shared, and we have a revenue share split model there. So that was it for week 1. For week 2, this is where I am. We're on the Wednesday of week 2. I have been doing cold outreach since yesterday, and yeah, I have my first phone call actually tomorrow, and we'll see how all of that goes, and I'll make the next video once week 2 has finished, and we'll go into the details there. And I think the last thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys today was how do you actually reach out to customers? I don't know if this should be a separate video. I might cut it up to be a separate video. I don't know. We shall see. All right, so regarding how to start and where to start from and what I think about it. Okay, so if you haven't seen this before, another great Alex Hormozi video that you guys can watch are 4 ways to reach customers. And you basically have like 4 quadrants, which is 1 to 1 and 1 to many. And here you basically have also 2 kind of levels, which are kind of like warm and cold. I would put it this way. Warm, what that means is these are 1 to 1, these are people that know you. So these are old customers. If you don't have customers, it's friends and just your network. Okay? But these are people that know you, they'll take the time of the day to listen to you. It might not be interesting for them as much because they might not be your target audience, but at least you'll get some feedback on it. Okay? They might know somebody that might be interested in this. So use that. If with these, you really need to be focused on how you can get them to introduce you to other people that they think would be interested in your offer. Then you have 1 to many, which is basically nowadays your social media, right? But you can also have like stuff like organic traffic. Right? So it's a way to see that like these are small things that you can do by yourself, but that you get into touch with many people if you do it correctly. And why am I saying this is warm? Because this is stuff that's basically for free. You're not spending money on it. It's, if you have a following or if you start getting a following, they already know, these people already know you, they've had some interaction with you, so they have a little bit more trust than cold people. And if we're talking about cold people, so this is basically potential customers, where you outreach by email, text, could be messages on LinkedIn also, phone, or in person. Okay? The further you go, the more effective this is. In person is one of the most effective ways to find customers, especially if you go to conferences, events, and these kind of things. But if but that's not scalable. So the other things are more scalable and quicker to do, right? And then cold 1 to many, basically this is ads. Okay? So these are the kind of like the 4 ways that people can reach out customers before they've gotten to a stage where they have like sales teams and they have many people reaching out and they have many things to do, right? Now, let me show you something that Alex Hormozi doesn't talk about, or at least I haven't found that content with him, okay? So what I think you should be focusing on most is these 2, okay? So the 1-to-ones. Why? Let me explain in a different type of way, okay? And the other way that I want to explain this is if you have time, okay? So you can think about it in 2 ways. Let's say 1-to-1 looks something like this. You make the pitch, you do everything that you need to do to reach out to cold people. You have your lists, you have your potential customer lists, you have your friend lists, so on and so forth. So what you can do on a regular basis is, on a daily basis actually, is reach out to real people. and get real feedback. Instead of looking at obscure data like views, likes, and followers. Okay? So you're like, if you reach people, people tell you no, you get a good sign that, you know, this is not working. Whereas if you go online, nobody's going to tell you no. They're not, maybe won't convert, they won't, you know, sign up for whatever it is, the newsletter, the phone call, or whatever. But in our cases, we're pushing people towards an introduction call, and it's a 15-minute free introduction call. And you know, what we're looking at, I mean, we're doing both things at the same time, but to be honest, you know, looking at this obscure type of data, it's helping me learn basically how to use social media for my business in the future, but it's not really giving me a ton of customers right now. And for me to look at, you know, it takes at least, you know, a week or 2 weeks to fully analyze the feedback loop. Why do I say that? Because you launch something today, it takes time, you know, you need to reiterate it, you need to regurgitate it, you need to push out more and more and more stuff, especially if we're looking at, you know, organic stuff, social stuff, so on and so forth. And that means that you're kind of like, you're pushing a single message out there for 2 weeks, you'll see what's happening, so on and so forth. Guess what you can do with one-to-one? You can call easily 100 people a day. Okay? And my argument would be calling 100 people a day gives you more knowledge than 2 weeks of looking at likes, follows, so on and so forth. And the reason for that is because you talk to 100 people, 99 of them might tell you no, one of them tells you yes, you've made a sale. Once you've made the sale, that's when you actually understand where the business is and how to get customers. Now, it might take you 5 days to get that one customer, so it might take you even 500 calls. But guess what? Now you know the conversion rate, right? So you know it takes you 500 people to get one customer. Then what you can do is revisit the pitch and the message. Okay? And not only that, I would argue that for the first several iterations of one-to-many, you're not going to get anything. So it's going to take you at least 3 to 4 tries to get customers. Okay? Now, in this outreach, basically what happens if you look at time in a linear way, so let's say you have week 1, week 2, week 3, let's just go with 1 month basically. You have week 4. And basically, if you divide this up, the first the first, so on the one-to-one, on week 1, you might potential to make a customer. Here on week 1, you have the potential, you have the potential to improve your content. And by the way, I would not suggest doing ads until you've made your first sale, because you don't know what are the trigger points, what are the words that you actually need to do to get a sale. So spending time on ads is possible. A lot of, like, all startups do this before they actually get customers, but that's a lot of wasted money and a lot of wasted time. So if you're bootstrapping, or if you don't have, $1 million in your bank account to experiment a lot with ads, you need to go out and reach out to people directly. So you have in week 1, you have the potential to get customers. Here you have the potential to scale the number of customers. Okay. And here you're going to be working on improve, content again, improve, maybe get a customer. So my advice, warm outreach first. Focus on the warm outreach to try to get people in your network to use it. If they're not target audience, ask them to reach out to their friends, parents, whoever. Let them think about who might be interested in your service. Then move on to cold outreach. So emails, texts, phone, so on and so forth. And then, in parallel, if you have time and if you want to, do the socials, do the organic, so on and so forth. It's great to have credibility outside, and if people search you from the cold outreach, that they find something. So you need to have that, but don't move into ads until you've nailed down these 3, okay? That's it for me right now. I hope you like this type of content. Let me know, maybe send me some comments on what you'd like to see next, and see you in the next one.